Warning, listening to this show may result in increased levels of inspiration, motivation, and innovation. Side effects can include the immediate urge to take massive action to build a better business and life for yourself and others. You've been warned. Welcome to Influencers Radio with your host, Jack Mize.
And welcome back to another episode of Influencers Radio. Overachievers, over-doers, overthinkers, over-givers. If you don't know one, then there's a good chance that you are one. And if that's the case, there's also a good chance that it's leaving you feeling drained, in pain, tense, overwhelmed, numb, empty, stuck, resentful. So can your inability to slow down be interfering with your ability to be productive? Well, my guest today says absolutely it can. And not only your productivity, but it can also affect your relationships, your health, spiritual growth as well. Aldene Etter, well, she is a bodyworker and a coach. And for 20 years, she's been helping people address the pain and drain in the body and create balance so that they can experience more energy, focus, and mental and emotional capacity to navigate life. Aldene, welcome to Influencers Radio.
Thanks so much for having me, Jack. I'm glad to be here.
Well, I'll tell you, this is, I think, a great time to get into this and discuss this because things have changed so much over the last 18 months. But, the ambitious are still ambitious. They're still grinding it out. And, a lot of people think that the key to growing, to getting further in life is to scrub harder. And it seems to be like a lot of people are just, digging themselves in a hole. So I know it's quite a contradiction, but for some people, relaxation just seems to stress them out. So let's kick this off by maybe you can explain why it is that some people can't seem to unwind.
Because it feels unsafe. It really boils down to that. It feels unsafe when they slow down. It's the unknown of who they're going to be if they're not going, doing. And there's so much, often for many of us, I should say, there's a lot of adrenaline and cortisol racing through the body. And then whenever we have the experience of slowing down, it stops and we don't feel that great. So there's the physical part of it doesn't feel good if you've been going, and then you stop. And then this sort of a mental, emotional aspect of the unknown, who you're going to be if you're not seeing yourself as this doer, always on the go, and feeling. Like if we slow down, we start to feel our emotions. If we're busy, we're probably avoiding them. And for many people, feeling emotions is uncomfortable and it feels unsafe.
Well, that's really, really interesting. And I think that's a different perspective than a lot of people see, a much deeper perspective. So, and I can see that instantly as you were saying that. So it's not necessarily when people are going and constantly active. It's not necessarily about what they're trying to accomplish. It can be equally as important to their identity. Is that accurate?
I agree with that. And also what they want to accomplish and their identity and what they're wanting to avoid, whether they know it or not. It may be subconsciously that they're avoiding feeling emotions that might come up, emotions that, especially the ones that are particularly uncomfortable to feel: embarrassment, shame, disappointment. So staying busy, achieving things in order to avoid feeling emotions that are natural emotions. for everyone. I mean, they exist for everyone. And just that there's some of them that aren't very comfortable to feel, shame, embarrassment, like I said.
Well, you've been doing this for a long time. And do you find that with clients, and maybe it's different for all of them, but do you find that sometimes it takes a little bit to get someone to acknowledge that that's kind of at the core when they're looking for a way to get that balance?
It does. For 20 years, almost 20 years, I was a massage therapist. I called myself a body worker, and I was doing massage and some other modalities, including craniosacral therapy. And I would have clients, regular clients who would come, and we would talk about what's happening in your life. What are you feeling in your body? What's happening in your life? And start to notice the connection. Here's an example. A man came in, he's having some problems around his abdomen. I ask him what's happening in your life, and I find that his son is leaving for college, and he's feeling very emotional about that. And the emotions are creating an experience of discomfort in his muscles in his stomach area. So as we talk through it, just in sitting there in the office, he started to feel better when he realized that it was hard for him to stomach his son leaving for college. His only child leaving for college was really hard for him to stomach, and it was manifesting as discomfort in his abdomen. So I do think that people, if they create a relationship with someone where they feel comfortable beginning to talk about what's happening in their life, which doesn't necessarily happen if you're getting a massage at a spa, but having a relationship with a practitioner where you begin to trust this person and feel comfortable sharing more than my shoulders hurt, my low back hurts, is more about what's happening in your life, then that relationship cultivates trust, and people are more willing to be open to the idea that something emotional or mental might be affecting how they're feeling physically. Does that make sense?
It does. And it is fascinating to me because, you mentioned, body worker. A lot of people think, okay, when you think about massage, stress relief, the relaxation. And I, up until about 18 months ago, when life was, I guess, what we called the old normal, a lot of people, myself included, would have assumed that, a body worker, that would be something that would require a physical connection. But, yeah, but for you, that's not the case, because it does sound like an equal part of the physical connection is also a mental connection, emotional connection, like you talked about. So maybe you can give some background on that, because I think that's something that a lot of people haven't considered. That working with a body worker, at least with you, it's not something that demands a physical connection. How does that work?
Well, two things I would say about that. One, I think body worker is to me, it's a broad title, which can encompass so many different kinds of modalities. Even people who practice Reiki are considered, to me and to others, they're body workers because they're addressing issues in the body. And everything is connected. The mind-body connection, mind, emotion, body connection, they all are related. They all are connected. So I think of myself, I've been calling myself a body worker since 2001. And I did pivot away from doing hands-on sessions last year. Whenever, we all know what happened in 2020. I pivoted to doing remote sessions, specifically remote craniosacral And I'm still doing the same hand positions that I would if I were in person with someone. I'm just doing them from my office while that person is in their own home. And they're feeling it. They're experiencing, many of them, better results with the distance work than when we were doing hands-on sessions. So the 2 points of, one, bodywork can encompass lots of things, and to me, it's about addressing whatever issues the person is experiencing in their body in that moment. And then the other part of mind-body connection, which lots of people have heard that mind-body connection. We could also add mind, emotion to that, mind, emotion, and body connection, because they are so connected. And there's been quite a bit of research, especially by John Cabot up in Massachusetts, University of Massachusetts. He did a lot of research with the mind-body connection. So my own experience in these last 18 months is that for probably 40% of my clientele who pivoted with me, they're having better experiences with remote sessions than they were in person, with the in-person hands-on sessions. And again, one of the main reasons, which goes back to what you asked me in the beginning of our conversation, is safety. People are feeling safer in their own setting. They're in their own home. Many people choose to be in their bedroom, so they're in a safe location. They have doors closed. They have told the family they're not available for this period of time. And they don't have to get up and leave, go out in public after the session. So that is another layer of safety that they're feeling. And I've been told that not having another person in the room, not having that practitioner actually physically in the room, allows them the space to be who they are, and they're feeling less tense and more safe to let the session happen. And these are people who have had a lot of body work and didn't realize that level of unsafety that they were feeling. Maybe it's not unsafe, but there's just a little level of tension that had been there that they weren't aware of until it was removed. So that tension that is there in the in-person sessions for some people is no longer there in the remote sessions. It's been amazing.
And, you talked about how these, emotional or these thoughts can manifest themselves into physical problems. My knowledge on this is pretty shallow, but I could imagine that is just a symptom of a person that has an overactive mind that causes a lot of these problems to begin with.
Yeah, so overactive mind. People are, I'll use myself for an example. I will think about the worst things that could happen and, making plans to address every bad thing that might happen. That's my mind doing that. And in doing that, I'm using my imagination in a way of thinking all the worst things that could happen if I don't achieve this, if I don't get all this work done today. And that tension then that is created by me thinking, and focusing in, all my attention is in my mind, thinking about the worst things that could happen. I become ungrounded. My neck and shoulders become tense. My jaw is probably getting tight. I might be getting a headache because there's all this rumination going on up in my head. Now, there's an example of mind-body connection. Like, you're thinking about all the worst things, like what's going to happen if I don't finish this task that my boss gave to me for today. If I don't get this contract, all the things that could happen, and that tension in the body because of all of that thinking. The opposite could also happen. You could use that active mind to imagine yourself having a root growing out of your feet and growing down into the earth and grounding yourself, like moving your attention down to your feet. Even that, just using your mind to focus on your feet, which is as far away from your head as you can possibly be while still focusing on your body. So if you use your mind and focus on your feet, try that now, Jack. Just notice your feet right now and just feel for sensations in your feet. Is there a temperature? Are your shoes too tight? Do you feel the texture of the sock? Or maybe your feet are bare and you're feeling the carpet. Just moving your attention down to your feet as a way to use your mind to slow down that busyness that's going on up there in the head. What happened when you did that?
Oh, well, that's remarkable. Yeah, well, definitely you stop thinking about other things. As you were saying that, it's things that you don't normally think about, right? The sensations that you don't normally think about.
Right. And sensations, I do, this is one of the things that I suggest to clients, is like move your attention down to your feet. It's still in your body. In your body, in the present moment, is a really good place to be. So if you move your attention down to your feet and then you start looking for sensations, it gives your mind something to do. Meditation is a great tool. I personally don't suggest it to clients because the clients who come to me are just like so busy in their heads that meditation seems impossible. So I say, focus your attention on your feet. In a way, it is a meditation because you're focusing your mind on something and it's in your body.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and literally, when you were saying that, as we were talking about it does kind of push everything out of the way. And, you think, hey, feet, I know we don't spend much time together. I don't spend much time thinking about you, but yeah, it does push a lot of that out. And when you said that people don't think they have time for meditation, but this is a way, I guess, to get some of that benefit. One of the things that's happened over this last 18 months is that more people are working from home. And you're talking about, the what ifs, people worried about, what if I can't get this done in time? What if my boss wants this done? And I think a lot of people are finding themselves, going from bed to the computer. And then before they know it, it's time to go from the computer, back to bed. Right? How much is that contributing to stress in the body, which I imagine is amplified these days, the way that people can find themselves before they know it? That's where they've been all day.
I think it's for many people, it's even though they're enjoying parts of working from home, they are working longer hours and they're not moving as much because they're in their own little space at home, and it is contributing to more tension in the body because they're sitting, looking at a screen without moving. And our bodies really aren't meant for sitting still, looking straight ahead. It's in a way, it's a repetitive motion, but it's a repetitive lack of motion. Just staring at a screen, being in one position, hunching over. And as you do that, you start to compress your lungs and end up breathing very shallowly. Now, shallow breathing, many people might know this. It's just only breathing from the top 1/3 to 1/4 of your lungs. And just imagine that. If you on a regular basis are only breathing from the top, let's say even 1/3 of your lungs, how much oxygen are you not getting? If you're only breathing with 1/3. And one way to remedy that is to just take a series of deep breaths. And as you do, you'll notice how different your breath is when you consciously take a deep breath than what your normal breathing is.
Well, it really is amazing. And I know what I'd like to do is go back to what you're talking about, this remote work, because it really is eye-opening what you're talking about. Because even myself, when I think of Bodyworker, I think of, massage therapy, right? Here, work the knot out of my back, a physical thing. And even what I've, little I know or understand of the cranial sacral, it's again, a physical interaction. But what you talked about today, like with the feet and with the breathing, that really doesn't require any physical connection. Is that, and I could see that being a huge benefit of, is that what you do? You kind of guide people through these activities?
Yes. And that's the coaching aspect of the work that I do now. And I have been coaching people before, but I have had coaching training, and I do now sometimes some sessions are more coaching than they are craniosacral, because I'm working with people wherever they are in that moment. Whatever, I don't have an agenda for a session. It depends on the person and what's happening for them in that moment, what we do. So that teaching people how to do some of these simple tools and finding the tools that work for them, because I think that's important. Finding tools that work for you, because everybody's different. Meditation works for some people. Grounding exercises work for other people. I have an exercise using the vowels, which is just saying A-E-I-O-U in a particular way, and that works for other people to focus their mind. So helping people find the tools that work for them, and sometimes they're 20 seconds long, because that's where they have to start. If you feel like you don't have any time and you think you can spare 20 seconds to do an exercise, that's a good starting point. So there's the combination of coaching people to help them find tools that they can use for themselves anytime, day or night, especially at that 3 o'clock in the morning when they're lying awake in bed. It's good to have a tool right then. Otherwise, your mind is just going to go crazy. And then the other aspect of doing craniosacral remotely is part of the work that I do. And yes, when William Sutherland and those other osteopaths started, it was hands-on. And even John Upledger, Hugh Milne, Thomas Attlee, who's in London, when they're training people, it was hands-on. And it is for some of them still. But Thomas Attlee himself, I've done trainings. I have another training with him coming up, starting on Thursday, actually, specifically for how to do this work remotely, because we're changing with the times. And craniosacral work has always been energy work. Even though it's done by physical therapists in hospital settings, it still is energy work. It's probably an easier transition to remote than massage. But people have said to me, how are you doing massage remotely? Well, I'm not. I'm doing craniosacral, and it is energy work. And by that, that's probably a question, like people are wondering, what is energy work?
We hear that term, and energy is such a loaded word, I guess.
It really is. And I will admit that I find it challenging to explain. I'm better at demonstrating for people and letting them experience it, which I do on Instagram. I have an Instagram page, and once a week I do a live session there for 30 minutes that people can come to that live, and they can experience distant craniosacral, because I find that easier. Just like, come and try it. Then you'll know for yourself, which is probably better than any words that I could give you. But we could think about Einstein and quantum physics and all those great scientists who talk about everything being energy, including us. We are electromagnetic. We do have our electromagnetic fields and in our bodies, and we work with them whether we intend to or not. Even when you're doing massage in some ways is also energy work, because you're connecting your field to the other person's field, like my energy to the other person's energy. So there is some any kind of body work, there's some level of energy work. And Jack, I'm afraid I didn't explain that very well at all. I was almost like a politician there, just circling around without actually answering the question of what energy work is. Oh my goodness.
You know what? I'm going to tell you something. What's really fascinating, and I don't know if this is a purposeful thing or maybe it's just a natural gift that you have, but just listening to you seems to smooth someone out. I mean, because you have just this very calmness about your voice, and when you're explaining things, I mean, it just kind of it's almost therapeutic in itself just listening to you.
Well, thank you. Plus, you also focused on your feet earlier, and that probably moved your energy down and helped you be a little bit more grounded.
It could be. And here's what I want to make sure that we don't leave this kind of unanswered, because I think there's a lot of people, like I talked about at the top of the show with productivity, that there's so many people that feel that their lives and their success is held together by this very thin thread. And if they slow down, it's all risk it falling apart, right? And I think that the contradiction that I'd like you to help people understand is how slowing down increases your ability to be productive. And I'm not just at work, because I think when a lot of people think about it, and you even talk about how it affects relationships, health, spiritual growth. How is it that by slowing down that it can actually increase and benefit all these different areas of your life?
Well, I think that for me, I see it as if you have to find the courage to slow down, because in a sense, it really is that. Find the courage to experiment with slowing down, even if you start with 30 minutes. I'm going to take 30 minutes and do nothing. And just let yourself be with whatever thoughts or emotions arise when you do that. Then you're going to be more in touch with the expanse of emotions that are available to you, and be a more rounded, a better rounded person if you're in touch with all of those. And also, I mean, the research is out there in productivity. People who take naps in the middle of the day or take breaks in the middle of the day are much more productive than those who just plow right through. So your mind gets a rest too. Many of the great experimenters that we know of in the past, including Ben Franklin, specifically took naps in the middle of the day. He had a technique that he used, that he would hold 2 metal balls in his hand, sit in a chair, tip it back slightly, and then have a nap. And then just when he was about to doze off, he would be in that period called Hypnagogia, which is right before you fall asleep. His hands would relax. He would drop the metal balls. They'd land on the floor, make a noise, and wake him up. And his mind had just rested for that period of time, and he came up with some of his most brilliant ideas right then, in that instant. So if your mind has an opportunity to rest, you're more likely to be able to find the inspiration and the answers that you're looking for whatever it is, whatever project, whether it's a work project or it's a relationship. And then you also have access to the full range of emotions, which is what really makes us human, to be having all those emotions.
Well, it's just really amazing and fascinating, field of study. And I think, even like you talk about going back to Ben Franklin, I think a lot of people have heard these stories, but not really sure how to apply it practically to themselves. And it sounds like you have this ability or gift to help people to apply this. So, what does it look like? Is somebody saying, this really makes sense. I understand I need to slow down. I just don't know how. I don't have that gear, in my, in my engine. So what does it look like for someone to work with Aldene? What is that? What does a remote session look like? If you can kind of paint a picture of that.
Now, I work on Zoom or FaceTime, and I work one-on-one with people in confidential sessions, and they tend to be 90-minute sessions. I've found that once people arrive to a session and they start talking about themselves, and I listen, then 90 minutes is a good amount of time for people to really feel like they're being heard, and then to start to practice some of the tools and tips that I might give them. And each session, we might get some new tools for them to try. And I do, as I said earlier, work with people with wherever they are. If it's someone who has never slowed down at all and 20 seconds is all they can manage to slow down, I think that's a really great starting point. And then next week it will be 30. And we could just slowly, incrementally build up the time, and they can experiment with what works for them. So, yeah, I work one-on-one in 90-minute sessions over Zoom.
So it really is remote. It's remote, and I think it really eliminates a lot of excuses that people may have. They don't have to go anywhere. They don't have to.
You don't have to worry about parking.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I can't let you go without asking you, what led you to this? What led you to do what you do and to help the people that you're helping?
Well, I didn't plan it, to be honest, Jack. I went to massage school for myself, for my own personal development, because I felt that something was missing. I had a master's degree in counseling. I was working as a counselor, and I really felt like something was missing, and it was the body. So I went to massage school to learn about the body and my own experience with working with other people and their bodies. And then I found out I was really good at it. So I let go of the counseling work, and I started doing massage. And then in 2007, I went to school for craniosacral therapy and found that it was a modality that really resonated with me, and I haven't turned back. And then, as I mentioned earlier, last year, I pivoted to doing the remote sessions, and I'm moving forward with that because I'm thrilled at the results that people are getting from the sessions that we're doing now.
Well, I can say I think a lot of people are fortunate that you did make that move, and gives people an opportunity to benefit from it in a time that I think they probably need it the most. So I want to thank you for coming on and sharing this information. I think a lot of people are, they're thrashing. They're running out of the minutes in the day, and the overactive mind. And I can see how it does cause so much stress and so much, and the way you talk about how it manifests itself physically. So someone does, they're thinking to themselves, I need to find out more. I need to start following Aldene. How can people find out more about Aldene Etter and follow and do what you're doing and get involved?
Well, I have a website, aldenelistens.abmp.com. And then, as I mentioned earlier, on Instagram, each week I do a live 30-minute session, and it's a great opportunity for you to experience the distant craniosacral. Now, that session is specifically distant craniosacral, the unwinding that occurs with the distant craniosacral integration. So that's at craniosacral_explorations, which is the name of my business, Craniosacral Explorations. So Instagram and my website.
Yeah, well, we'll have the links on the show post. Again, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing this. You make a big difference in a lot of people's lives, and And you certainly do. You have a unique ability and a gift. Like I say, just in your manner. And you can hear the passion comes through, but in a very calm way. So it really is remarkable. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Jack. This has been a really great conversation. I appreciate you having me.
All right. Well, folks, there you have it. Definitely check out Aldene Etter. We're going to have the links to the site and how you can connect with her on social media right there on the show post. And until next time on Influencers Radio, remember, you are the only real game changer.
You've been listening to Influencers Radio. To get all past shows and updates on future shows, visit influencersradio.com today.